Hey, this is Chuck Ward from one of your missionaries and we're here in La Gomera, Guatemala.
Seeing God at work, I mean, it's a goosebump sort of experience.
It is just amazing how all these people working together can make such a difference.
Just to see what's really happening here, what Manna's doing, and just how it's just opened up all of our hearts. It's just overwhelming. I don't even have a word for it. It's literally everything in my life in perspective. It's just amazing.
Well, good morning, everybody, again. It's great to see you today. First of all, I want to introduce to you, this is Chuck Ward, and he's with MannaWorldwide. And before I even tell you who he is, can we just welcome him to Stonehill? A big Stonehill welcome. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Chuck. It's good to have you, man.
It's good to be here.
So I've known Chuck, just to kind of give you some backstory, I've known Chuck since since 2000.
Right.
So I think of 18 years. I'm not great at math, but it was even before I started shaving.
I know. You were about 4 years old then, I think.
Yeah, I think I was 4 years old. I'm actually still not shaving, but we're praying through that. But we're really glad that Chuck is here. Now listen, one of our stepping stones at Stonehill is that we are not perfect. We're a messy church, and I just want to up front just be transparent. Chuck's not perfect, okay? He's dealing with some things. The one thing is this: Chuck is from Texas, and so he's a Dallas Cowboy fan,
Man,
okay?
Yeah. Listen to those Cowboy fans. Woo!
I don't hear anybody. So,
no,
anyways.
There was a few.
But we still want to welcome him. There was like one. So we still want to welcome him, and just so excited. And so Chuck is here. He's with MannaWorldwide, and we're going to kind of dig down a little bit. I just want to ask you a couple questions. And maybe, first of all, Chuck, he is our outreach partner, first of all. We support him monthly, $400 a month as a missionary. But what do you do? What is MannaWorldwide? Like, what do you guys do around the world?
Manna actually is 16 years old, and what we do is we partner with missionaries around the world to set up. At first, we just started with feeding centers because there's children that are starving to death around the world. But what we do is the missionaries we work with start these feeding programs. They feed the kids every single day. But that's just a tool to reach them with the most important thing, and that's Jesus Christ. So every day when they come, it's like these kids right now, they're being shared about the love of Jesus in your classes here. That's what we do every single day. Every one of our centers is established with a local church. It's just not just a feeding center. So it's an outreach to the community, which enables us not only to reach those children, but to get into their homes. Since then, though, we've added we have orphanages. We have 19 orphanages around the world. We also have schools. A lot of our places don't have public education, so we not only we feed them, but we also educate them as well. So we've grown. We have 165 projects in some 41 countries right now around the world.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So give it up. I will say this: I personally have gone on a Manna's missions trip. I went to Guatemala a few years ago, and there's something powerful when you just go into these feeding centers. You see these kids who have nothing. They walk for miles to get one free meal, and it might be the only meal they get all day.
Right.
And it breaks your heart. But what's cool is that you guys are able to reach them with their tummies so that you can reach them for Christ. And so that's really, really cool. So maybe do you have like a story or something to share of what you guys have done?
Yeah, I've got a really cool story. A couple of years ago in Guatemala, there's a feeding program that we have. It's in a city called San Lucas. We've been feeding kids there for about 5 to 6 years now. We just built a brand new building. It's kind of cool. I'm going to be, 1 week from today, I'm going to be in that church, which is really cool. So anyway, we feed about 140 kids in that feeding center. But something happened with one of our kids 2 years ago, and I'd heard about it. But they had actually 5 kids in the family. All of them attended our feeding program. All those children had come to know Christ. Mom had come to know Christ. Grandparents had come to know Christ. The only one that had not is Dad. And I'd heard once I got there a couple of weeks before, there was a car accident. Dad was driving, and so the driver's dad and one of the kids, the little girl, were all killed in this car accident. And so this man's mother was very critically injured. And so we went to visit the dad, who was an alcoholic and never wanted to come to church. And the one thing, we tried to comfort him and tried to share Jesus with him. He didn't want to have anything to do with us. And so it was very disturbing to hear him say, how could a God that you said loves me take all my family members from me? And, it's kind of hard to share, when somebody's hurting that bad. But I left him with some scriptures, and I told him, I said, I'm going to come back 2 weeks, but I would love for you just to look at these scriptures over the next 2 weeks. And I tell you, the next 2 weeks, we just bathed that in prayer. I sent out through Facebook and a bunch of the supporting churches to pray, and this guy's name is Jorge. I said, would you please pray for Jorge? And so myself and one of the pastors 2 weeks later, we went to his house. And the first thing he said to me, he was saying, I was wondering if you're going to come back. And he said, I just want you to know I haven't been able to sleep since you left. He said, God has been spoken to me over the last 2 weeks. And he goes, I want to come to know this Jesus that you said loves me. And so that day he trusted Jesus. And it was just a great experience. And he's in church now. He is remarried 2 years later. And God's really using him. I go by and see him as much. So you can see we can reach the children, but we can also reach their parents as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. So how did you get involved in this? Like, you did this. I mean, like, you went from being a pastor. So that's the other thing is I knew Chuck. I was a worship pastor, youth pastor, and Chuck was like an associate pastor. He would come to me a lot for advice at the time.
Yeah, sure.
So I was more than willing to help him. But how did you go from that to jumping into Manna?
Well, to answer your first question, I came to ask you what not to do in churches.
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that part. Yeah. Okay.
Not to make mistakes or anything. But anyway, how I got involved was a dear friend of mine, Bruce O'Neill, actually started this ministry. He and I are out of the same church in Fort Worth, Texas, and we grew up together. We went to Bible college together, so we've known each other. He was a missionary in the Philippine Islands. And so God spoke to his heart because he saw children that were just begging for food on the streets in Manila, the Philippine Islands. And so he started a feeding program and actually built a church and saw that it's a great way to start a church and feed the children and to minister to these children. So he realized that this is something that could be used around the world. So he left the field, came back, launched MannaWorldwide, and actually it was in May of 2001. He was in our church in October of 2001 and asked me to go on a trip with him, which I did over Christmas break 2001. And we went to Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and started the very first feeding center there. Over 500 people showed up the very first service that we had there. We were feeding kids the week before, and we went out to the areas and invited people to come in. And we shared Jesus with these people. But we used interpreters and everything, and Doug, the service lasted 3.5 hours, which is about what we're going to do this morning, right?
Amen, yeah. We'll try to go maybe 3, but yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, we did it, and then we asked them. I said, if anybody would like to come to know Jesus, come forward and we'd share with you. And 75 adults got up out of their chairs and came, and we shared with them how they can know Jesus. And that's how I felt God's leading in my heart to do this. And so 2 weeks later, I resigned my church and have been with Manna for 16 years now.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I learned 2 things. First of all, 3.5 hour services are more godly.
Yes.
All right. Number 2, if you go on a mission trip, you become a missionary full time.
Yes,
Right.
everybody
Just got
does.
that. Yeah. Good deal. So, Chuck, tell us about how do we get involved as a church, as individuals?
Well, you're already involved, whether you know it or not, because when you give, you're given to help support my family. I could not do what I do without support from churches like Stonehill Church. And first, I say thank you very much for your support. Enables me to go. And then secondly, as mission trips, I know Doug's about to tell you we're going to have a couple of mission trips this year. We'd love for you to come and experience it. It's one thing for a missionary to come and say, hey, this is what we do, this is what it looks like. But for you to go and experience it and see the children and see the life-changing experiences that these children and their families have in the churches that we're establishing to come in existence, I will tell you this, you will not be the same when you come back. And then the third thing is, love for your church eventually to have your own center. All of our feeding programs and orphanages and everything we're sponsored by churches, individuals, and then churches that have a part in this. And I think it'd be cool to have a feeding center or an orphanage or something, and have a sign up there that says, this center is sponsored by Stonehill Church in Meridian, Idaho. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be awesome. So I'm going to kind of piggyback on the trips, too, because we definitely want to do that, the feeding centers. But we have 2 trips coming up, and you can see it. One is to Haiti, June 9th through 15th. And this will be really geared with the high schoolers. We're really pushing high schoolers to go to this, but it's open to all adults. And what will they be doing in Haiti?
Well, matter of fact, I was even talking to some of the teens. They came out afterwards in the first service. And so I told them, they were asking me, what can we do? And I said, you know what? We can do anything you want to do. Vacation Bible schools. And this one girl just got super excited. She goes, I love to teach kids. You can do buildings. You can help with this construction, painting, just loving on the kids. So it would be a jam-packed week filled with, a lot of effort and encouraging for the children that are there.
And then Guatemala is October the 20th through 26th. I'm actually going to go to that one myself. And it's just pretty much the same thing. A lot of the same thing, just a different country.
Correct. And
so both of them are really exciting. And so what I want to put out there for our church is I'm praying for at least 50 to 60 people to go on these 2 trips. I believe it will make a huge impact in your own personal life, but then also the life of our church, because we're outward center, we're outward focused, and we do a lot for our community here, but we're also called to go into the uttermost parts of the earth, and so that's an opportunity we have. So I would encourage you, and if you're interested in that, I forgot to do this, but if you could take out your communication card this morning and write down, I am interested in one of the missions trips, we'll put you on a list and get you some more information soon, but it's going to be really, really, really cool. And I have 2 more things. So this is a real serious question, okay?
Okay.
All right. Saw me smiling there. Chuck, who is your favorite church in Idaho? Just say that.
Say that.
I mean, we're recording it, so.
I have several favorites.
Okay, that's good.
Idaho,
That's good.
how's that?
Second of all, this is the last thing. Chuck, I've been to Texas and I've had barbecue with Chuck. It's an awesome thing. I've been to Guatemala and had some Guatemalan food. Is that what it's called? Guatemalan food?
Guatemalan food.
And then also, I thought since he's here today, we need to give him something that's Idaho-ish and just really let him know that we love him. So I went out and we did some major shopping, and we have a bag of Idaho potatoes, okay? So this is for you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
You can do as a snack on your plane ride home tomorrow or whatever. So, hey, can we get over for Chuck one more time for
Thanks,
being
church.
here?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. It's awesome. Thanks, man. Love you, buddy.